For the blue Zoids, there is no escape. They must stand and fight as the war machines of Redhorn stream to attack. And though Redhorn is powerful enough by himself, there is another whose presence may well turn the tide of the battle against the blue Zoids. I feel energy. I feel thunder. There is power beyond imagining. This must be the strongest Zoid of all. Thus I utter the ultimate name of power. The traitor! Mammoth, the destroyer! Once a blue Zoid, now a follower of Redhorn, brings his terrible power to bear on his former allies. I am the Namer, guardian of the names of power. Before your world even existed, my people were an ancient race. Now they are gone, and only I remain, keeper of my people's history. Across the endless tracts of space have I traveled, to return to the planet of my birth, Zoidstar. Though my people perished long ago, and their cities were buried by the shifting sands, the machines remain. It is these that have brought me here to perform the last act of the Zoidarian race, the giving of the names of power. When my race was young and had an interest in the affairs of the galaxy, they built the machines, mighty engines of destruction which gave the power of life and death over the other creatures in the galaxy. The Zoidarians turned their gaze outward and laid waste to 1,000 star systems with their machines, their Zoids. But ruling a galaxy was not enough for the Zoidarians. It was not the conquests, but the battles they enjoyed. And though all intelligent life trembled in the shadow of the Zoids, my people battled on, machine against machine, Zoidarian against Zoidarian, in the further pursuit of glory. Zoidarian lives were needlessly sacrificed to the god of battle, and the race dwindled in numbers until the elders outlawed the Zoid duels. But they couldn't outlaw the Zoidarian love of combat. The Zoidarian pilots of the giant war machines were replaced by androids, and thus the heroic combat could continue without threat to Zoidarian life. Too late came the order. Too late to save a once mighty race from extinction, and now only I remain. Only I and the Zoids. And though my people created the Zoids, I have no power to control them. For the war machines have become the living embodiment of the Zoidarian thirst for combat, with lives and wills of their own. They exist only to fight, to ensure that their heroic combat lasts for all eternity. Now I stand on the sand-blasted surface of a world I used to call home, high on a rock, scanning the horizon for some sign of movement, knowing that out there, behind the sand clouds, lurk the deadliest war machines in the universe. Devastating though these machines may be, they are the least powerful of their kind. Stronger and more savage are the power Zoids. Giant machines whose very passing can topple mountains. Even now, a power Zoid approaches in search of enemies to destroy. There is a tang of danger in the air, but the power Zoid moves forward steadily. This is a creature of brute power. Its own strength is protection enough from most enemies.
Stand aside, Namer. Your time is done. I am master of Zoidstar now.
This creature stands over me, gloating, supremely confident of its own invincibility.
Only the mighty Zoidzilla can stand against me. I will fight these red Zoids.
Mechanical death dream. Light flash in the night. Guardian no more. Trees of trust. Steel heart pounding. Blue turns to crimson tide. Destiny twisted under a blood red sky. Traitorous Mammoth looming in the dark. Steel and fury gonna leave a mark. With horn shadow blood plotting soul. Dark plans scheming wants it all. Trail of skin, rust in the veins. Mammoth's roar echoes with tones, torment and pain. Intentions all war, screeches fill the air. Passion titans, destruction everywhere. Steel hardened, blue turns to crimson tide. Destiny twisted under a blood red sky. Traitorous Mammoth looming in the dark. Steel and fury gonna leave a mark. Red horse shadow plotting his fall. Got plans scheming, wants it all. What trail runs deep, rust in the veins. Mammoth's roar echoes with torment and pain. Engines of war, creatures fill the air. Clash of titans, destruction everywhere. 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 Deep, rust in the veins. Mammoth's roar echoes with tones, torment and pain. Engines of war, screeches fill the air. Clash of titans, destruction everywhere. Everywhere. Gonna leave a mark. Gonna leave a mark. Red horse shadow, reflecting its fall. Got plans scheming, wants it all. The trail runs deep, lost in the veins. Mammoth's more echoes with torment and pain. Engines of war, screeches fill the air. Clash of titans, destruction everywhere. Everywhere. Gonna leave a mark. Everywhere. Gonna leave a mark. Gonna leave a mark.
The blue Zoids have only one hope now. Their leader, mighty Zoidzilla, must join the fray. For only through Zoidzilla's matchless strength can the blue Zoids hope to survive. It is the never-ending battle between red and blue Zoids. It has been waged for centuries. It rages still, with no end in sight.
I, the Namer, last of the Zoidarians, guardian of the names of power, keeper of the legend of heroic combat, have spoken.